Hi, how are you? Today I want to share a bit about my healing journey in case that it resonates with anyone or helps anyone. Like any other journey, I have found that it is not linear. so there's many parts to my story and my continued unfolding of this journey. And when I say healing journey, I am talking healing journey in many aspects. And in a way, you could almost describe it as a spiritual journey. Well, no, you could definitely describe it as a spiritual journey, but you could describe it as a life, as a lifetime. So there absolutely is a healing. I'm not trying to sugarcoat that, and I'll share. And in that healing, there is also a becoming. There is a emergence of, it's a continual emergence and blossoming of the greatest version of myself. So in the healing, that allows for just the next potential to be realized. And so it is both healing and becoming at the same time, which is not at all what my intention was when I started on a more intentional journey, a conscious journey of healing. I was looking to feel good. So for me, I was trying to decide whether to say it started with physical stuff or emotional, and it's nearly impossible to separate the two, so I'm not going to try. But I will start by sharing, I guess, the physical first. So in some respects, I had physical stuff that since I was born, that over time my parents would share with me, like, oh yeah, it was like really hard for you to digest food from the time you were an infant, and and things like that were just off. And I have this recollection of times where I did go to the doctor for something, and they would do whatever they did, check all the things and say, no, you're great, you're fine, and send me on my way. And I remember actually experiencing that as like devastating, as like a dismissal, or like, but I don't feel fine. So in a way it was like, I want you to find something. I want you to be able to tell me something about why I don't feel good and what I can do to feel good. I mean, I have always been active. My parents were, focused on healthy eating. I remember as a kid, I loved if I could get my hands on candy. I wanted that sugar, and occasionally did get it. But in the grand scheme of things, you would have said, oh, we eat really healthy. And my perspective on all of this has, let's say, grown or evolved over time. But so some of it was lifelong. Other parts of my health, and kind of when things like really started to shake up, came later, and they did come alongside like emotional upheaval. So a time where I had unexpected like loss in my life, and heartbreak, and that include like relationship changes and financial loss, and which led to questions around what where am I headed, and where do I want to go with my life? Do I want to go there? Things like that. And so as I was starting to explore emotionally what I was feeling, and how I could understand and soothe that, and heal my heart, I was also being invited by a not so gentle tap on the shoulder in terms of physical stuff to look at my body, look at my physiology, and physical health. So just to give some context of that without going too deep into it, for me that involved, I'm trying to think which happened first. I don't remember, it doesn't matter. I had a knee surgery to remove a cyst that was benign, but it was causing cartilage to get stuck in my joint, and my knee would lock up and it would be excruciating pain. And when the surgeon was in there, she noticed that the tissue was just super inflamed and it was not related, so it led me on this journey of testing, the tissue for rheumatoid arthritis. I went to see a rheumatologist and he's like, no, it's negative. Asked a bunch of questions and essentially said, I have no idea what it is, but it's kind of acting like an autoimmune. It's acting like a rheumatoid arthritis. So we'll just give you your choice of medication. Here's 12 medications. This one you can't have children. This one you can't drink. This one's really expensive. This one you have to give yourself a shot every day. This one, da 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 da. And I started crying. And I remember him saying to me, I don't know why you're crying. I'm giving you solutions. And I asked, how long would I have to take these medications? He's like, well, as long as you need them, indefinitely. And so that was it. It was like, here, don't know what's wrong, but maybe one of these will work, maybe not, good luck, and I did not take any of the medications. At that point, I was, like I said, working on some of the emotional stuff too. My intuition was starting to come online, which I think was one of the invitations of going through all of this, was that this was what was really happening. Was I was having an opportunity to know myself, to trust myself, to find that place within me that I could know and trust. And I have been growing that capacity and access ever since, and there's always more available there, which is awesome. It's been one of the joys of this journey. And this is a happy journey. This is the exciting journey because it has really led me down a path of so much more than I ever could have imagined or even desired in my life, because it opened me up to all sorts of things that were not even on my radar, not even in my realm of awareness. And it involved, this journey involved a massive paradigm shift in what I know about life and how I experience life. Okay, so back to the physical. The other thing that happened was I had a sinus infection that turned into sinusitis. So for a couple of years, I couldn't breathe out of my nose. And, I was just always experiencing this inflammation. And again, I remember going to a doctor who said, after giving me lots of antibiotics, which I later learned were just really destroying my gut and my microbiome, which already had issues that I didn't know of yet. But, she had offered me the choice of medication. It was just, I don't know. Pharmaceutical companies have come in here with their reps offering us these samples. And so I'll just give you one of all of these samples and you figure it out. And I remember thinking that was absolutely crazy, absurd as well. I even went as far as having surgery on my sinuses because I was told, the pathways are narrow. And so if we open up the pathways, then you'll be able to breathe and they won't be irritated as easily and then you'll be fine. Well, I was able to breathe a little better, but it turns out that the real problem was inflammation. So the inflammation was still there. So finally, kind of going through all of this, I felt called to seek out other avenues. And at the time I was working with a shaman and studying shamanic journeying with her, it's almost like lucid dreaming, where you're going into a trance state using a rhythm of a drum, and from that place accessing the subconscious and accessing the supraconsciousness. to get information. And so I was working with her on emotional healing, and she had recommended me to a naturopath who I went to. And like I said, I was already, someone who loved fruits and vegetables, and had a high fiber diet because of things that ran in the family. So I was always conscious about that. And anyway, I started working with this naturopath and did a 90-day detox, I guess we'll call it, detox, where there were a bunch of things I removed from my diet all at once, and then things I did to support my body and being able to handle that detox. And I won't go through the specifics, because if you choose to do that, then work with someone who can support you through that. I definitely needed that help and support, because even my own detox was extreme. So I was told I would have detox symptoms for maybe a week, 10 days. 6 weeks into it, I was having a hard time functioning. I took time off work because I just had so much brain fog, and all sorts of symptoms that I had been experiencing, everything from problems with my gut to increased infections and brain fog and depression and sinus headaches, and I actually can't remember everything because I've healed so much of it. It was really hard to let go of any weight, no matter how much I worked out and exercised and hydrated and got great sleep and did all the things. So this detox continued for a long time. It was really wonderful to have the support, both from the naturopath in this case, and then eventually functional doctors who could do testing and then respond to that testing, looking at me as a whole organism, an ecosystem, which we are, and then also to have the emotional support from this shaman I was working with. At the time, I was working with a therapist, and I mean, of course, there's all types of therapists, teachers, coaches, all sorts, and she really focused on how the mind, body, heart connection. So to me, it felt like some Buddhism, some neuroscience, some mindset and awareness. And it would really help me start to understand the relationship between what was going on in my mind and my body, and then my experience of life. And that really supported the physical journey. So all of this was working together. So that's one thing that I really want to share about this healing journey, is that whether you want it to be or not, it is all connected. The physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, all of it. You can't get around that. But that's also the beauty and the gift of it, is that you realize, oh, this is all connected. Of course, we're all connected. We're not just this body. If we're this body without a mind or a soul, I mean, I don't even know how to finish that sentence, right? And, if I'm a soul without a body, a form to express through, then what's that, And what's the role of the mind? It can be our greatest gift, and it can be our biggest obstacle. But ultimately, when we understand what it's doing and why it's just this beautiful thing, our mind. So my healing journey really took me deep into understanding and working with all of that. So some of it was lifestyle changes, some of it was physical changes. I continued, to be really active and all of that. And one thing it did for me is it really made me fall in love with food and living food, and being able to see and feel the vibration of food, really high frequency food. So I had this gift that I always remember my mother telling me that she just loved having a bunch of colors on the plate, and there was such wisdom in that, because the colors are just all these layers of life and nutrients that our body wants, and and it's beautiful, and there's something about beauty and beautiful things that resonates for a reason, because it is in support of our harmonious life. So I continued to eat well, but I learned more about food, and I paid more attention to the process and the supply chain, and even learning more about the soil itself and the quality of the soil and the intentions and motivations and inspiration driving the people who are planting the food and harvesting the food, and all of this has a tremendous impact on the vibration and the frequency of the food that I'm then putting into my body. And so it became a slow learning process. I felt like I was on a bit of a crash course because I was so motivated by wanting to just feel good and feel energized. But it was, it's been a learning process, and it continues. So I remember, at the time, a lot of people had questions. That I received a lot of support from people. I received a lot of questions and what's the word I'm looking for? Like cynicism from people, like, oh, when are you going to be done with that? Or, oh, isn't it interesting that some of these diseases are, new or, trendy? And I got curious about that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder why that would be. And for me, I found that it's like, well, we are evolving. And again, because now I've had such a felt experience of everything being connected, I realized that, like, yeah, there can be new physical things that we experience as our food systems change, as our lifestyles change, as all of this reality that is going on that's influencing us that we can't see. And before that gets too woo-woo for you, I'm talking about, like, all the waves and all the frequencies that we don't physically see. But, like, I go out in the sun and I get a tan, I log onto my computer and I access the signal and I communicate with somebody on the other side of the world. So there's always, like, a lot going on that we can't necessarily perceive with our, our tangible senses. And so the more I become aware of that, the more I am aware of all the things influencing me, but also all the things that I can work with and be in relationship with to create my overall state of well-being and my experience here. And so the continuing down with the physical healing, so there's I am not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm just sharing my personal journey, but my recommendation would be to really get curious about, what you're putting into your body, whether it's food, whether it's water, the quality of water. I started learning about structured water, fascinating, cool, interesting stuff. It's really gets pretty fascinating. And but also what you're consuming in terms of information and news and anything that you're consuming. I kind of lost track here. Where was I going? Yes. So what was helpful for me was taking a look at all that with support. So working with a naturopath, working with functional medicine. So functional medicine, you have doctors, you have MDs who look at you as a full organism and ecosystem and can do tests and diagnostics so that there's this constant, feedback and then responding to that. So like we're relational beings, like they're like constantly in motion. So at the quantum level, at the macro level. So So it helps to work with people who really know, like, you know, what to look at and how to be in relationship with it, and then to see what happens. And so in this case, it's you know, going back to where I felt like I wasn't heard or helped, you know, by the people I was coming to for help. Like, nope, you're fine, go on your way. When I felt terrible, that started to change significantly when I went about it in these natural ways. And yeah, and then it took me on the path of learning all sorts of cool stuff about what can help, you know, support my physical well-being. The other thing that happened for me that was just such a major turning point, so I want to share this, and then I'll probably wrap up, so I'm not going to share the, you know, every detail here, but is that at some point I realized that, like, it just started coming in all the time. Like, I think I need to meditate. And I had various experiences with meditation throughout my life. At one point I was, when I was traveling in South America, living in Argentina, I would go sit at the lake and just listen, you know, and for 20 minutes a day. So I wasn't coming from nowhere, but there was this feeling of, no, you got to meditate and learn meditation and know why you're doing it. And this just kept showing up, and in conversation, in daydreams, like in things I would see on the internet, you know, just meditation. And so I remembered, actually, the therapist that I mentioned earlier, she had studied meditation with this teacher who linked neuroscience and quantum physics and meditation together, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And so I thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna look into that. And I started reading his books and practicing his material, and exploring meditation. And since then, I've continued that, and also continue my exploration of meditation beyond that. So, you know, silent meditation and working with chanting and sound and all sorts of different things that I opened up to once I started exploring meditation. And so that has become this part of my life that I just value so much. I love it. It's me connecting to me. It's me connecting to Source as my highest priority, because I know that the stronger, deeper, and clearer that connection is, the more fulfilling, meaningful, purposeful, and like fully realized my life is. So meditation has been a huge part of my healing journey. Oh God, I mean, so many other tools too, but I just want to kind of keep this simple, with the point being that it is the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual all together. And even the spiritual piece, it's funny, I have been really shy about using that word. I have thought, I don't want to turn anybody off, or I don't want anyone to think this is woo-woo, or I don't want someone who's, you know, not spiritual to say like, oh, you had me until then, and like, nope, not for me, not into that. But I can't not share it, because one of the biggest learnings, lessons, experiences of this entire journey is that it is, you know, like I said, getting more clear and centered and aligned and healthy and thriving has led me to know myself at the deepest level, to know my true nature, and to know who I uniquely am. Like, so my unique mix of gifts and experiences and talents and skills, and even when I say experiences, like good, bad, ugly, amazing, you know, all of that, like my unique mix, how that like swirls to express through me and help me to live my fullest life, to become like my next potential, and become my next potential, and become my next potential, and be in service to others, you know, so to contribute to the people around me, and contribute to the planet, contribute to this whole experience here. the more I am clear and fully doing that. And that's the invitation. So when I say spiritual, I'm talking about what is the full potential of being here, having this human experience. And when I talk about true nature, I look to nature as a teacher, because you see, like, let's take a jungle. It's such a rich territory to use as an example, because you have, these layers. You have the canopy receiving the sun. You have like the mushrooms, like the mycelium communicating in the earth. You have, the plants that die and fall to the ground and become, this like mulch and fertilizer and decay that then new life grows out of. So you see like the whole circle of life there. And so there's no good, there's no bad. Like I mentioned, the death and decay creates the space for new life to emerge, and then as that grows, it's not growing to achieve something, it's growing to experience its potential. So it, like, as it thrives, it grows. And so I see us as nature. I see that we are created to grow, to evolve, to have the fullest experience here available to us. And so when we go on a healing journey, it becomes a becoming journey. And so it is a spiritual experience, a spirit being our true nature, spirit being the consciousness, the infinite field of potentials. I'm talking about the quantum field, so potentials that are there waiting for our attention to be realized. And so that's the opportunity here. So it's this full journey. So that's all I'm going to share for today. Thanks for listening. If you do have questions or anything I can help with, just in terms of providing some insights or sharing a bit more, let me know. And have a beautiful, thriving, full potential day. Thank you.